The World Rally Championship pits man and machine against some of the toughest environments on Earth. For 11 months across 4 continents on 14 rallies, the 2001 championship was fought second by second. The outcome was the closest championship ever. But it all began back in January with the traditional season opener, the Monte Carlo Rally, this year celebrating its 90th anniversary. The weather's always unpredictable for the Monte. The rally's based entirely on tarmac, but heavy snow in the days before the event had made conditions treacherous. The Monte starts and finishes in the glamorous Mediterranean Principality, but all the action is up in the foothills of the Alps. As reigning world champion, Markus Grönholm was first off. But his title defence got off to a dreadful start. The Finn was out of the rally before lunchtime with an overheating engine.
Yeah, it was on the stage too. Maybe after 15 kilometers, I start to feel some noise, and it was not so powerful the engine. And then we have to stop for 7 minutes to check, but I couldn't find anything, so I decided to go to the end of the stage. But we cannot fix it here now, it's impossible.
In fact, all of the Peugeots went out on day one. Oriol hit a rock and lost a wheel. And Gilles Panizzi, driving the third Peugeot, lost control in the icy conditions. The man who benefited most from all these retirements was Colin McRae, who hates the rally but was in command. McRae's closest challenger was 4-time world champion Tommi Mäkinen in the Mitsubishi. Subaru didn't fare much better than Peugeot. Marco Martin had already gone out, and then flipping his $500,000 car onto its roof was Petter Solberg. Last year's championship runner-up, Richard Burns, was now the sole remaining Subaru driver. By the end of day one, McRae had built up a lead of over 30 seconds from Mäkinen. En route back to Monte Carlo, Richard Burns' Subaru developed a problem, oil pressure knocking him out of the rally. Day two, and McRae knew that Mäkinen would do all he could to catch the Scot. McRae has never won the Monte. The famous Sisteron stage, and it was here that Mäkinen started to make his charge. He sliced 20 seconds off McRae's lead in one go. All three Fords were in the thick of the battle. This is Carlos Sainz. And back with the blue oval was Francois Delacour, a former Monty winner. McRae briefly lost first place on day 2, but bounced back again to regain the lead from Mäkinen by 3.5 seconds. But Mäkinen wasn't yet ready to concede victory. It was all set for a battle royal on the final day. Turini is one of the most exacting and exciting stages in the World Championship. At the top of the pass is 6 kilometers of snow and ice, but they're running on tarmac tyres. At the top of the pass is where McRae came unstuck, the fly-by-wire throttle in his Ford failing right on the apex of a blind bend. Mäkinen nearly runs straight into the stricken Ford, but there's not even a flicker of emotion on his face as he passes his rival and almost guarantees a 3rd successive win on the Monty. McRae managed to get going again, only for the car to break down. This time, it was all over. Furious, McRae vents his anger. For the 2nd year in a row, the Ford has let him down whilst leading.
Sorry for Colin. It could be a nice, good fight with us, and of course it would be much better feeling to win after big fight.
With McRae out, Mäkinen was now in a class of his own. His closest rival was Carlos Sainz, but he was over a minute adrift. But the main battle was for 3rd between Skoda's Armin Schwarz and Ford's Francois Delacour. Unchallenged at the end, Tommi Mäkinen cruised home to make it a hat-trick of wins on the Monte Carlo Rally.
Have to be very happy. It was enjoyable weekend for us, and everything worked well. We had no problems at all with car. Car was working all the time, no problems. Tires, everything, tire choices, everything went very well.
So Mäkinen a winner by a minute, Ford 2nd and 3rd, and Schwarz 4th. In February, the World Rally Championship moved to Sweden for the season's only winter rally. Even in temperatures as low as -30 and run entirely on ice and snow, it's still one of the fastest rallies of the year. The Swedish rally is based in the centre of the country at Karlstad, 380 kilometres of special stages. First off, Tommi Mäkinen. After 4 years with the number 1 on his car, it's still strange to see him carry number 7. Next up, the man who's inherited that number 1, fellow Finn, Marcus Grönholm. But for the 2nd rally in a row, the champion was in trouble. Grönholm's engine was overheating again, and by stage 3, he'd retired. Barreling into a fast left-hander on stage 2, Richard Burns lost control of his Subaru. The car was beached like a whale on a snowbank. Furious and frustrated, Burns lost 13 minutes.
Come on! Looking at me!
Colin McRae was next past the Englishman, for whom the frustration was all too clear. But another corner and another snowbank. Colin McRae copied Burns. But he was lucky. He had a little more assistance from the burly Swedes and lost only 5 minutes. A little local knowledge goes a long way in Scandinavia, so Mitsubishi brought in Thomas Radstrom and co-driver Tina Turner. They were third after day 1. Sainz started slowly, but was soon blasting up the leaderboard to the very top. With his team leader out and Didier Auriol suffering flu, new boy Harry Rovanperä suddenly found himself as Peugeot's best hope in Sweden. He was second.
No real problem. The car is working well. The tires are working okay, and just try to keep pushing as hard as possible. It hasn't been easy to be second in the road. I guess for Tommy it hasn't been even. It has been even more difficult to be first car, but that's it.
10 o'clock in the morning and still the thermometer read -21, but that didn't keep the fans from flocking to the forests. As leader from day 1, Carlos Sainz was first into Cullen. The spikes on Sainz's Pirellis propelled him through the pine trees at over 160 kilometers an hour. 24 hours earlier, and Harry Rovanperä had never rallied a Peugeot 206. Now he was after his first win. Sainz's lead looked bulletproof. But when the Spaniard stalled on stage 9, he dropped to 4th overall. Rovanperä now led by 7 seconds and was on course for his first win. Behind Rovanperä were 2 other Scandinavians, Tommi Mäkinen and his stand-in teammate Thomas Radstrom.
Yes, I'm very happy, and tomorrow we ask about the start place, and we'll see today what happened with Carlos. But anyway, that is very difficult, every choice.
Up to 10 centimetres of snow fell overnight before day 3, and the 5 stages round Hagfors, including 2 to be run twice, suddenly made the end of the rally look anything but predictable. He might not have won a World Rally, but Harry Rovanperä knows his stuff. He attacked Safon like his life depended on it. Next up, the Michael Schumacher of rallying, Tommi Mäkinen, but he'd gone for 2 shorter studs, and he scrabbled for grip. Carlos Sainz prayed for snow, and he got it. It was his only chance of reversing his slide down the leaderboard. Burns was now just going through the motions, but still he managed to set fastest times. If it was possible, Didier Auriol woke for day 3 feeling even worse than before. Flu, bronchitis. Apparently, he had everything bar the plague. Except in the middle of Sagan, Auriol's transmission gave way, putting the Frenchman out of his misery. Mäkinen decided it was better to fight for first than roll over and accept second. A second a kilometre, he needed to beat his friend Harry on the final stage. But Mäkinen threw it all away. Second place, let alone a win, lay buried in the Christmas trees. Again, we see it. Mäkinen starts to lose the back of the Mitsubishi, and it snaps right into the trees. Game over. Buried up to the doors, Thomas Radström passes the sunken Mitsubishi into second. Sainz takes third.
I was pushing very, very hard. Unfortunately, this right corner, it was just snap oversteer quickly, and it was so fast, it was no power enough to pull front back on the road, and we hit the snowbank, get through and rolled over.
Despite setting a succession of fast times, McRae was slowed at the end by a gearbox stuck in 6th. With Mäkinen out and Radström pushing hard, Rovanperä dared not smile as he rolled to the end of the final stage. Confirmation at Peugeot, Rovanperä had won the Swedish rally.
I'm very happy, of course.
Joy too inside Radström's Mitsubishi. So Rovanperä joins the elite club of World Rally winners. Sainz ended up third, and for the second rally in a row, Gardemeister took points in the privateer Peugeot. Three drivers now equal on 10 points, but still none for Grönholm, Burns or McRae. Round 3 and the championship moves to Europe's most westerly outpost, Portugal. Based near Porto, Rally Portugal's well known for its dry, dusty roads, big crowds and even bigger jumps. But not this year. Torrential rain through the winter had left the stages resembling a mud bath. This was Tommi Mäkinen's 100th start in a World Rally, and he hoped that running first on the road would be an advantage, as the stages would be less cut up. Baltar, just east of Oporto, in the first stage of the rally, a 3-kilometre head-to-head super special in the mud. More rain fell overnight and the stages were in a worse state than ever before. Peugeot opted for a mud tyre, but Tommi Mäkinen had to make do with a gravel tyre. The lottery had begun. Vaiso was as much a fight for sight as for speed. Second on the road was Harry Rovanperä. The early cars were always going to have the cleanest run through the stages, and Rovanperä set the fastest times, moving him into the lead. Full of confidence from victory in Sweden, the Finn gave the rain-soaked spectators something to cheer about on the famous Faf jump. The record over the jump is the length of a football pitch. But Burns was a little more conservative.
Fast right, minus in bump, slippy maybe.
If the biblical conditions weren't bad enough, Grönholm had to cope with cows as well. The Finn was also having problems seeing in the mist. On tyres cut deep to add traction, Tommi Mäkinen ploughed his way through the mud. No longer was being first on the road an advantage. Rovanperä was faring little better. He was almost bottoming out in the ruts. Not even his mud tyres could get to grips with the appalling mire. With his engine overheating, Rovanperä was forced to fill the radiator from a stream. The worry now that long-term damage might have been done. But at the top, it was coming down to a head-to-head between Mäkinen and Sainz. Colin McRae's season went from bad to worse when his Focus caught fire.
What's all this coming out? Fire. Fire extinguisher? Yeah.
Peering through the mist, Mäkinen pushed as hard as he dared. On the harder stages south of Oporto on day 2, there was little advantage to running first on the road. This was the Argonel stage, and Mäkinen floundered in the mud bath, but still set fastest time. Sainz was in even worse shape, almost coming to a complete stop. But in the fog at the top of the hill, a safety car had slid off and was stranded half on and half off the road. How Sainz missed it is a miracle. The stage looked like the Somme, but by now the weather was not Harry Rovanperä's worry. His engine had dropped a cylinder and the Peugeot was dying a slow death.
Vasen helppo miinus pidä, jatkaa pitkä oikea eri plus maali, 7.
The 206 finally giving up the ghost on the road section.
Harry, after such a great result in Sweden, a big disappointment for you.
Yes, absolutely. And rally starting well yesterday and today morning also everything looks well, but something's engine problem coming and we don't know yet what is that, but rally is over.
The battle for the lead raged on. Tommi Mäkinen looking strong. And still ahead of Carlos Sainz.